everyone. Welcome to the Dreaming Forward podcast. I'm Kalyn Wilson,
And I'm Shalon Johnson.
and we are the managing partners of Dream Forward Consulting. Today, we're going to be talking about the misconceptions of leadership. There's been so much drama around what it means to be a leader. Are you a good leader? Do you need to upskill as a leader? And so, we just want to share some of our thoughts in light of all of the chaos of the last 2 years. So, Shalom, what have you been hearing lately about leadership and what's standing out to you?
That's a loaded question. I would say what I've been hearing about leadership is that a lot of them are leaving the workforce in droves.
Mm,
So it's not just the employees that are leaving, it's also the CEOs, COOs, all these
mhm.
different positions in the C suite. And I think honestly, it's because on their end, it's the pressures of leading in this climate. We've
Yes.
been going through so many things in the past few years, as Kayla mentioned, and there's a lot of pressure on a regular for the C suite. But imagine if you have all of this high turnover
Mhm.
and people just not even trying to come to work, and then civil unrest, and then supply chain issues, and all of these things. Who's not going to leave? Who's not going to retire early? I mean, I might.
I definitely would. I'm thinking back to when we worked at the city and it was like all of the fanfare, it would be a wave of retirement announcements like around September, October, and then you would see people leave for a month or two. They would go get hip surgery, knee replacement surgery to use up their sick time, and then
Exactly.
come back and they would be gone for the holidays because they would get paid out for all of that extra vacation time. And
Mhm.
honestly, I can't blame people. Like if you've been treating me like crap as a middle manager for 5, 10, 15 years, and then now it's even worse with the pandemic and the civil
Mhm.
unrest, and then you expect me to do even more with less staff, I'm out of here. And I think for a lot of leaders, and let's even specify the differences in leadership types. That's a really important one. So let's start by breaking this part down. There is a significant difference between the expectations of an executive leader, a mid level leader, and a frontline manager or supervisor style leader. And I don't think a lot of companies tailor their leadership development programs, leadership support efforts to those three types. A lot of I'll say the lion's share of development opportunities and support often goes to executive leaders. And if I'm going to be honest, yes, there's tons of pressure there, but the mid-level managers, so I'm talking about the director, senior manager, maybe even like manager comma population, they need a lot of support because for a lot of people this may have been their first leadership experience, especially in people management. So I feel for folks. I think one of the main misconceptions, especially for mid level leaders, is that you have to know everything.
Mhm.
And there's often so much pressure that you face to even get to the role. Let's be honest, a lot of these companies make you jump through a lot of hoops to get these promotions. And
Yep.
so when you finally break through, get the promotion, you feel like you never stop performing, right?
Yeah.
That the show never ends. You never get an intermission. And I want to challenge that perspective for you that you absolutely do get to have your own intermission when you said it. You can advocate for self. You can position yourself to get the support that you need.
Mhm.
And you can also leave and go find some other place that you can get it if you're not getting it where you are now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's a key.
Yeah, and I would say that, I mean, let's just call it what it is. It's self-care. It's
Yeah.
wellness. Um, Taking a vacation. There's so many leaders, people in general that don't take PTO. Kaylin, I mean, we don't understand that.
I'm taking time off
We will
regardless.
be on a
I'm
flight,
out of here.
you know. And so I think as important it's important as leaders and people in general to make sure you do that. Do the things
Mhm.
that you love. Go on that wine tasting trip, you know, go walk your pet, your dog. Do those things that you really love. Stop answering your emails
Mhm.
at a certain time. stop taking meetings 6 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
Like those are some things to really consider. And I think that if anything, that's very important as a
Yeah.
leader. Education and experience and all of that is important, but I
Yeah.
think wellness and knowing when to stop is just as important.
You know what, to that point, just you mentioning about education and experience, another huge misconception of leadership is that if the company isn't subsidizing it, I'm not going to step into that. I'm not going to pursue that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to take a risk on yourself. I think between Shalon and me, companies have paid for us to get maybe one certification, maybe two, and we have about 15 between us, probably more if we were to really sit down and count.
It's more.
It's more. And so a lot of that we've paid for ourselves. I know it's incredibly tough, especially if you have a family.
Yeah.
But I know for me, I'm pretty good about long-term planning, and Shalani is too. Actually, we sit down, we strategize together. So we'll be like, okay, look, what's happening in the market over the next 5 years? What's happening in the market over the next 10 years? Where are my gaps? What don't I know? How much money could I get as a return on this investment? Right?
Mhm.
I want the ROI of whatever certification training I go do. I need that, and I want that, and I'm willing to set aside $2,000. A lot of programs, especially now, they're willing to do stuff on payment plans in
Yeah.
ways that they were not before. Talk to these companies if there's one that you want, but take your own professional development seriously. And then let me add this into that. Make a decision early in your leadership journey about what percentage of your brilliance you're going to offer to this company.
Mm-mm.
I'm going to say that
Ooh,
again.
that's a big one.
Make a decision early about the percentage of your brilliance that you're going to offer to this company. Because they
Wow.
don't, I promise you, they probably don't pay you for 100% of your brilliance.
Oh, it's not a promise that they probably don't. They do not.
They don't. I don't care how much they paying you, because you got to think the company is designed, right? It's HR's job to make sure that they maximize the company's performance, the company's
Right,
profits, the
right,
company's, reputation.
right.
It's not about you.
No, it's not. It's not. Well, take your PTO because they don't care. I mean, no, but
Wait,
seriously,
so like
don't you
what's your percentage?
my percentage?
Yeah, what's your percentage that you are
You
like
want
your
me to
like sweet spot percentage?
you want me to say that publicly, Kalyn? I ain't crazy now. 100% of my brilliance goes.
Okay, wait, no, no, no. What was your percentage 5 years ago?
Okay. You know what? Honestly, probably 100% because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now I know better. So it's honestly not 100%. I would have to think about what that percentage is, but it took a lot of growing for
Mm-hmm.
me to realize that these organizations, these companies, aka your job, is just a business. It's never about you. And even if you feel like it's about you for a second meaning a year, 2 years, three
Mm-hmm.
years, eventually it's going to come to a point where that focus stops being on you.
Yes.
And so you have to know when it's time to get up and leave. And and it's not a bad thing. I know back in the day, people used to be like, "Oh my God, you have to stay at a job 10 to 15 years, retire from
Yes.
there, or whatever." Like, no, that's over with. I've never been that person. I think it's very powerful knowing when to leave
Come on.
a job, knowing when you're no longer getting what you need from them, when they no longer serve you.
Come
And
on.
that could be in you getting a certification, that could be you getting your tuition reimbursement, or that could be you not getting any more stretch projects. But you
Come
have
on.
to get very skilled at knowing when it's time to start looking. For me, that's usually a year before it actually happens.
Yep. You know what? I usually start as soon as I start one thing, I start looking at the next thing. And I
Mm,
think that's another misconception of leadership, is that it's like again, we have this mindset that we should feel so grateful to get these positions a lot of
Ooh,
times.
yes.
No, it's a mutually beneficial relationship. They didn't pick you from the goodness of their heart, as my grandma used to say. They picked you because they want you to do something for them.
Yeah.
So you should have an ask for them too. As soon as you get your promotion into the leadership role, or as soon as you get settled onto your new project as a leader, or as soon as you get your new assignment, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? Is it a promotion
Exactly.
here? Is it an exit out? Is it starting your own thing? You got to have that in mind, because then that way you can make sure that you maximize every moment you have in that opportunity. You're
Yeah.
not waiting until a month before and now trying to scramble to make connections, or scramble to get the clout, or scramble to finish the project to add to your portfolio. You're already doing all of that from day one. That helps you to make better decisions as a leader.
Yeah.
Leaders who have a purpose, leaders who have a plan, leaders who are focused, even like understanding themselves, that's an energy that spreads to the team. I'll be honest. When I've had leaders, even ones that were incredibly selfish, their focus helped me to know how to behave as an employee.
Mm.
So I had a supervisor once, and this person was just like, I mean, they were incompetent, they were flighty, they were selfish, but I knew them. I knew how to play on that selfishness when I needed to get my work done. I knew when to ignore them. I knew what it would take to get them off my back, right? I knew how to predict it more easily. Now, we're not telling you to go out and be, the Cruella de Vil or Ursula
Yeah. Yeah.
of your workplace. But what we do want you to know is that intentionality as a leader cascades down to become intentionality among your team. And that's extremely important as a leader.
Okay, Kaylin. So you've been talking about, you got into a little bit of our breakdown, which is our perspective on what it means to be a leader and,
Yeah.
all of that. So I would say that what I think it means to be a leader is someone who is strategic, but
Mhm.
also who has that coaching ability.
Yeah.
And so that's really like the bureaucratic style of leadership. That's usually when you are leading based off the policies and things like that. You
Can we talk
definitely
about that real quick?
uh-huh.
Because people crap on bureaucracy all the time, but that is needed.
You have. Can I tell you why? This is why it's needed because you need to have, like I said, that strategic leader who is going to be able to look at a policy and to be able to make decisions, strategic decisions based off of that. And why is that important? There are so many different industries. Let's
Mhm.
think about the healthcare industry, for example, right? That industry gets audited all of the time.
Yes.
You just have a leader who's just saying, oh, pizza parties for everybody because I just want to make people happy and
Right.
stuff like that. You're not really going by the policy. You're going to get audited. That business is going to get shut down. That's bad for business.
Yes.
So that's why I think that that one is very important. However, I don't think that you should only lead like that. I think that you
Right.
also need that coaching leadership style
Yep.
because you need to always lead in a way that there's going to be somebody after you. And there
Yep.
also needs to also be people next to you. So you want to make sure you're coaching those around you to be those strategic leaders.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, that's it. That's what
You
I'll say.
know, I think you made a really good point toward the end there, which is that sometimes it's this style, sometimes it's that. One of the biggest misconceptions of leadership is that you have a type and you're stuck to that.
Yep.
So all the psychometric assessments, all the articles, all the programs, they put you in a box. DISC does it, Gallup does it,
Mhm.
who is it? Insights does it, EQI. Well, that's a little different, but even that to a certain degree, right? It pegs you. And I want everyone to realize that we are all works in progress. We all have good days, bad days. Sometimes we are stressed the hell out. Sometimes we are super happy. Sometimes we're irritated. You're not always going to be one style. And so I want you to become comfortable with the fact that as you evolve and change as a person, the way you're going to show up in the world will change. That flexibility is
Mhm.
necessary, and it's up to you to decide how you lean into that flexibility. The other thing that I think is really important, how to manage up.
Mm. You getting into the up skills. So so these are really the action items, what you all need to be looking to do when you get into leadership. Go ahead. Go ahead, Pastor Kalyn.
No, this is the thing. As much as it's important to manage down, so you have your direct reports, how you manage up with your supervisor, and then your skip level supervisor, and then manage across.
Yeah.
Number one, you need to be aware of the people who probably really wanted your role or your project.
Mm,
If people know you, right? So you might be known as like a great organizer or a great speaker, a great cheerleader, champion. If people wanted that project because they see it's getting clout or they see it's more money attached to it, they'll find all types of little ways to undermine you.
whew,
And sometimes it'll be in rooms that you're not even in. So having a situational awareness of where other people are tracking around you is
mm,
going to be critical for your own development.
mhm,
It's going to be critical for your survival.
mhm.
That's why we want you to have your next thing in mind when you start this thing.
Yep.
Because when you got your next thing in mind, the little it
Don't
don't
matter.
bother you because you already had a timeline on that thing. You already knew 12 months, I'm out of here. So when they start acting a fool in month 9 and 10, I only got 60 days left. We good,
Right.
right?
Right.
But that situational awareness of those peer relationships is critical.
Yeah.
Also, managing up. If you know you got a moody supervisor, an incompetent supervisor, a supervisor got a nasty attitude, a supervisor with a bunch of enemies, for your own survival, you need to decide if you want to show up the same as them or different.
Mhm.
So I've had supervisors that were hated throughout the organization, and I was able to get my job done just by being likable. Even when I didn't quite know what I was doing yet, like I needed a curve to get figured out, people would still be willing to work with me because I was the anti that person.
Mhm.
Sometimes I've had to show up as the exact same person as my supervisor. So if they were very personable and knew how to grease hands and grease palms, then hey, I had to show up and do the exact same thing. If they knew how to give favors and do different things to support people, I had to do the same thing. And so again, this is that situational awareness now vertically.
Yeah.
Know your boss's boss. If they are a person that is hungry and desperate for clout, not only do you need to manage to what your supervisor do, you need to manage that person because guess what? Crap falls downward. It's
Yep.
going downstream. And so it's not going to pass you just because it hit your supervisor. They're going to find a way to pass that on to you. That's human
Mhm.
nature.
Yeah.
So again, just having situational awareness of your horizontal and your vertical relationships, meaning managing up, in addition to what you're paying attention to for your direct reports, it's a survival tactic.
Mm, mm. Can I add something?
Please.
People, just because there is someone, let's say it's your leader, just because that leader is hated throughout the organization,
Come on.
please do not automatically hate that leader without you figuring it out yourself. That
Come on.
comes with that's that situational awareness
Mm-hmm.
that Kalyn just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've had situations like Kalyn just mentioned as well. But I've also had situations where everybody hated this one particular person, whether it's your employee
Mm-hmm.
or the leader,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that person they were good, they were fine. Like I've had people that said, "Oh, this leader is just so aggressive," and all of these things, and I'm like, "Oh, I work very well with them. Like, there's no issue." Like, oh, I actually like them.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a personality thing. Like I'm very
Mm-hmm.
direct, especially at work. I'm direct. Um, I document everything. Like you're not going to slip me up at work, okay? Because I always cover my, can I say cover my ASS? It's just I make sure I'm always good, right? I always do. So you're not gonna I'm not gonna slip up in that way. And so yeah, that's why I was like, girl, I done lost my whole train of thought because I'm having
I
flashbacks.
know, no, it's triggering. Even bringing this
But
stuff up, it's too
yeah,
much.
but you know
And you
what?
know
I
what? I
tell a
guess,
quick story though.
yeah, please do.
When we didn't mention this yet, but when we were coworkers, right?
Woo.
And you first started, there were people on the team that was not feeling you because
Uh-uh.
let me tell y'all, Kayla came into that team and she was like, "Oh no, we need to do this. Oh, this PowerPoint slide needs to be this color. Y'all got two fonts in this deck. No, like that's how Kayla was." Okay? And some people was like, "Who is she? Why is she coming here changing our stuff?"
I'm me. That's who I
I didn't
was. But
pay
go
attention to
ahead.
none of that. But if I would have paid attention to that, we would
Hmm.
not have groomed our relationship to what it is today.
Yep.
And so you really need to pay attention to all of that chatter. Pay attention to who it is doing that chattering because a lot
Hmm.
of times they just want to start trouble.
Hmm.
And all of that is important for leadership because you could be a leader even if you don't have the title. Be a leader in
Yep.
your role.
Yeah. It's funny because let's go back to that experience for just a hot second because two things come out of what you just said. Number one, part of why I came in there like that is because again, I'm already be on the timeline when I start something. So I don't really spend a lot of time with the woo woo. That's not one of my strengths,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
me neither.
So it's like, baby, I only plan on being here 12 to 18 months. So it's like day one. What we need to do, got it. We on it. Boom. Like a
No,
lot of
what
times
do
I
I need
treat
to do
jobs.
for my resume? You
Yeah,
mean?
there you go. Yes, because it's like I treat jobs like consulting projects.
Hmm.
Boom, I only got a little bit of time. Let's make something happen and get somewhere. And so you knowing your secret sauce, you knowing yourself, having that self-awareness, that's how you find your people.
Hmm.
Shalana and I found each other because we had similar mindsets. So in the middle of all of this foolishness at this job, because there was a lot, we found each other
Yeah,
and managed to build and blossom something that is now what y'all see today.
right.
So again, you'll find your people. And the second thing that came to mind when I was thinking about what you just said is that people don't like, you have to know how people track on their change orientation.
Hmm.
Some people want to find something, get in it, and stay. And that's it. So you just in it, and there you go. So change feels very threatening. Any little change. Other people, like me and Shalon, we want to see meaningful change occur. We are oriented toward change. And so it's exciting to us to be like, okay, let's rock. Let's do this. We're going to move this. We're going to do that. But everybody's not like that.
Right.
And so you have to know, and it's a spectrum too. Let me be clear. So it's not like a light switch where you flip it on and off. You could be like 60-40, or 70% one way or like 90-10. I'm definitely more 90-10 oriented toward want to change. But knowing that about yourself and then being able to kind of guess that about your colleagues will help keep down so much mess. That's
Yeah.
part of the reason why me and Shalon can get up and leave a job when we feel like stuff ain't going. Because like I know what's going to change here and what's not, and it's not even important enough to me to see you or this organization change to put up with this foolishness. I'm just going to go someplace else,
That's it.
and it's really just that simple. So again, if you think about people's change orientation, including your own, that will help you manage conflict. It'll help you manage your behavior, your relationships, your outcomes, your performance. It'll help you manage your pace. So when you need to work at breakneck speed to get something done versus when you can take your time and stretch it out, it helps a lot. You got to
Mhm.
know that change orientation.
Yes. Yes. So, what are our action items for
Mm.
our viewers? I would say, like you said, knowing your change orientation.
Mm-hmm.
I would challenge you to do some research and thinking about the types of leader you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
You can go on Google University or YouTube University, and also thinking about the types
Mhm,
of leadership styles, like a theoretical,
mhm.
from a theoretical standpoint, think about those. And just, I don't know. Like I feel like
It's a
it's
few things.
oh, oh yeah, and reflecting on your experiences
There
at your
you
job.
go.
Yeah,
Yes.
you absolutely have to do that. Look at your job like it's a case study
Yes.
and look at your leaders around you, but also look at the people who are standing out on your team
Mhm.
and see what type of leadership style they are exhibiting.
Mhm. You can have leadership crushes. Like, when I coach clients,
Yes.
that's one of the main things I ask, like, "Who is your leadership crush?" And then when I work with clients on DEI strategy, I ask, "Who do you want to avoid being like?" So,
Mm,
who repels you?
yeah.
Those things help you a lot, right? So we're conditioned, especially in Western society, we're very individualistic. So it's like, I don't want to be like other people. I'm a unique person. Nobody's like me. We all are emulating at least parts of other folks that we've seen, even if it's just people who we saw in childhood and subconsciously are using as a form, right? And so, who are your leadership crushes? I
Yeah.
really like Michelle Obama's leadership style. I like Stacey Abrams' leadership style.
Hmm.
I enjoy, um, I like Bob Iger's leadership style too.
And they're
I
all different.
enjoy leadership styles like Gary Vaynerchuk. I enjoy his willingness to constantly evolve and change,
Yeah.
right? So it's not that you have to idolize a full person.
Yes.
You eat the meat and spit out the bones. If you
You do.
like the way someone speak but don't like the way they manage data, that's
Yeah.
fine.
Hmm.
Manage those crushes. And who repels you though? I am repelled, for example, by Elon Musk's leadership style. Not him as a person, his leadership style.
Yeah.
Because I am hyper aware of how what I do impacts other people.
Hmm.
And so, and that comes from a number of things. I'll probably talk about that on a later podcast. But because I'm hyper aware of how I show up and how that impacts other people, it stops me from being what could be considered impulsive. And
Yeah.
so when I see very impulsive leaders who aren't always polished in a status quo way, that's a turnoff to me.
Hmm.
But I do really appreciate the fact that he's able to build out his business ventures in a way that it's like before you know it, he's taken over like every part of a thing. I'm like,
Hmm.
wait a minute, oh my God. Like he's the person now that you're looking for answers to this thing. How did he do that? And it was like one business venture at a time. That
Hmm.
I can appreciate. Right. So again, you got crushes. Your crush is not gonna be somebody else's crush. Your person that their leadership style repels is not gonna be somebody else's. That's cool. Do
Hmm.
you. But you should have one.
And they're all different though. Like all of the people that you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, they're different.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Mine, just straight off the top of my head, is I have a lot, completely different from yours, maybe. First, first person that came to my head was Dame Dash. Okay, I
I
like
know you
his
love Dave.
leadership
I know you
style.
love Dave Dash so
Good.
much.
I watched every interview from that man, and I really like it because I typically enjoy people that tell it like it is.
Mhm.
I don't do small talk.
Mhm.
I can't stand it. I don't like people beating around the bush about stuff. Like, tell it to me straight. It might hurt my feelings. I'll
That's the New
cry.
Yorker in her, everybody. So I just want y'all to know that. Go ahead though.
You might be right. I might, look, I might go in the house and cry because you ain't gonna see me cry. But look, but I'll appreciate you the following day, right?
Uh-huh.
I might even curse you out, but I appreciate the way that he just tells it like it is, and he encourages people to be their own boss,
Mhm.
do their own research, just figure your stuff out. Don't be dependent on other
Mhm.
people to move forward. I love that. Um, I also like Jay-Z. As my, yeah, that's our favorite rapper too, but I
Yeah.
like him as a leader because we don't really know who he is behind closed doors,
Mhm.
but I appreciate the way he is making moves and he's a billionaire now and he's so quiet. Like
Yes.
you'll hear stories about things that he is doing, things that he's investing in, but he's quiet. So in a way, he's moving silently, but he's showing you what he can do. I appreciate that. You have to be a very organized person
Yeah.
to be able to do something like that. And also I'll just add his wife in there too, Beyonce. Very quiet. Like if you
Yeah.
watch her documentary, if you go to her
Yeah.
show, you see that
Yeah.
she's a great leader. Like the product is
Yeah.
there. Um,
That's it. It's the product.
it's
It's
the
like you
exactly.
see their outcomes. You
Yes,
don't
out
have to see, and that's what people don't realize. People don't need the messiness of the process. I
right.
think in this
Right.
social media era, we get so hype about like, I need everybody to see everything. I woke up at fat and then I brushed my teeth and then I had to floss twice on this tooth because we don't need to see that. I just want to see your
You don't
music
need
video.
to see me in bed either.
Yes. Like I want to go back to the days where we saw people waking up with makeup on their face. And it was like, oh my God. Like I kind of like that. I kind of miss that. I ain't gonna lie to you. Because it's too much messiness.
Yeah.
How long? This is my question for you.
To me or the people.
No, this to you. This to you.
Okay.
How long did it take you to appreciate making quiet moves? Like around how old were you? Or like how long ago did you learn to appreciate that?
To learn to appreciate my ooh, probably all my life, if I'm being honest. The
Mm.
only people who I talk to about what I'm doing are my circle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like less than 5 people if I'm not counting my close cousins and my sister. So, yeah, I would say that.
It took me until about 3 years ago.
Mm,
So it took me until 2020
mm,
when the pandemic hit. That's when I started getting very quiet.
mm,
Prior to that, I had points where I would like go off social media or just take a break, but it wasn't for the purpose of making quiet moves because I still had so much chatter and noise and people around me just pulling that I
mm.
couldn't appreciate my own excellence and zone of genius and just go. That's the thing with quiet moves. And this is actually another misconception of leadership is that you got to tell everything all the time. There is an art to knowing when to share with your, especially with your direct reports and when to sit with something.
And when to
There's
shut
an
up.
yes, like even with your manager, like you sometimes you got to just shut up. Like I don't tell everybody everything all the time. Like if I know that that person cannot handle that information without derailing the whole project, I'm not going to tell you right now.
Don't say it.
Period. So for me, getting quiet happened because I ended up being furloughed from a job.
Mm,
And all of a sudden, overnight, first of all, it was a pandemic. So you already isolated from people. A lot of my family members were sick with COVID. I couldn't get to people. By that time, I had quieted a lot of my friendships on purpose. And so I said, let me just go. I'm just going to go. I'm just going to activate. And when I did that, I made more progress in 6 months than I had made in 4 years.
mm.
And I'm never an inactive person. I always got something that I'm running with.
Yeah.
But I went at lightning speed and I haven't stopped since then. So now I'm very mindful, intentional,
Yeah.
thoughtful about how I share things and when. We're gonna pull in the 48 laws of power. I don't remember which one it was, but it talked about essentially only sharing things when you know it's gonna benefit you. That's not as shady as we think it is. Part of leadership is discretion and diplomacy. Knowing when to say something, when to shut up, when to share only a piece.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, even when to tell like a little white lie, like feed something just to see where something is coming from. It's an
Yeah.
art. And it's the way
Communication.
yes, yes. You good at that too. Not saying Shalon a liar. Like, let me be clear about that. But Shalon is very good about telling people something to almost like smoke them out a little bit. She's good at that. She's really good at that. She like, I don't even want to say. We gonna get off
I ain't
that.
saying
All right,
nothing
here we
else
go.
about that.
Final thoughts.
Ooh,
Final thoughts.
okay.
What you want to lead the people with?
My final thought is get to know you. Get to know you
Mm.
as a person, get to know you as a leader. I think the last point you made was very good because it made me think about not only getting familiar with what your leadership style is, but your leadership environment,
Mm.
knowing where you would excel the best, knowing if it's a quiet organization, a big organization that
Mhm.
communicates about everything, just really getting down to the nitty gritty of who, mm-mm, how you would lead the best.
Absolutely. And that is the key. Your best, not determined by somebody else. Sometimes you do need to play the game a little bit, again, survival mode, but you should be clear about how you define you. Nobody else can do that for you. So, we're looking forward to seeing y'all clear up these misconceptions in your own lives and your own careers. Tell us in the chat, in the comments, what does it mean to you to be a leader? What are some of the misconceptions that you've had to overcome in your leadership journey? And what makes you most excited about the next phase of your own leadership? Tell us.